Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two cousins who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Monica.
And today, before we get started on our episode, just a little inside baseball. We had, in order to get our podcast going, filmed a crap load of episodes ahead of time, and then realized that fan engagement and current events are really hard to keep up with when your podcast is filmed a month and a half
in advance.
So this is the first time in probably 6 weeks that we're filming anything. So it's going to be a little weird, but it's cool. And also, I just want to give a shout out to our #1 fan, because it is our only fan who actually super engages with us on the interwebs. Courtney, who messaged me after episode 8 of our podcast, which was episode 7 of the show. Yes. And her comment, hold on, I have it saved, was about Christina in the library with her grandma, that scene. And she said that when Christina is with the twins right before she goes to her grandmother, one of the twins says that she thinks she's getting acid reflux, but then when Christina leaves, she seems fine. And Olivia passes out basically as soon as Christina walks past her in the library. So I'm wondering if she causes bad things to happen when she's uncomfortable. Right?
That I didn't think of that.
That's what I said. I was like, oh my gosh, I did not even put that together. So Courtney is out here giving us some things to ponder.
I would definitely say so. Also, we're gonna have to. You will probably have to cut this because the lighting is being weird again. Hold on. We tried the other curtain. Oh, that's worse.
I might leave this just for fun.
It's better. I don't know. We changed the setup.
Monica, my lighting in my apartment is so yellow that it doesn't matter what I do. I look like shit all the time.
Yeah, but if the light hits me a certain way, I become the color of the wall. Not like I'm not.
I was going to say you're already white.
It's scary how close, but it's it's scary pale.
I'm blending into my cream-colored walls as well. So.
Last look status check.
So today, our actual episode is going to be talking about Hemlock Grove Season 1, Episode 9, What Peter Can Live Without. Which was not the best title for this episode. I mean, we answered the question in the episode, but okay. It came out on April 19th, 2013. And it was directed by David Straighten and written by Rafe Judkins and Lauren LaFranc. David Straighten wrote the last week's episode, which we really, really liked, and I was thinking it was going to be a continuation of the story we were on in last week's episode, so I was pumped about that. Rafe Judkins started his career in Hollywood by being a contestant on Survivor. He grew up in Pittsburgh, though, so I liked that because it means he knows the area that they're writing about, which is cool. And he also was born into a Mormon family, and he has 60 first cousins, which I just found to be a fun fact for this episode and our cousin bonds that are happening in this show.
Oh yeah, cousin bonds are definitely a little interesting.
Can you imagine, our family is not small. Could you imagine having 60 first cousins?
No. We have 18, and that's enough as it is.
Do we have 18?
Yeah, Grandma has 18 grandchildren.
Right, but that's just Grandma. That's not counting, like, Trina and his kids.
True.
Yeah,
so
like, so we have,
like 20.
Yeah.
20-something.
He and Lauren both started their writing with a show called My Own Worst Enemy, which was like a Jekyll Hyde-esque type sci-fi show, which is pretty good. And they both were writers on Chuck as well. And since then, they have written for some pretty interesting sci-fi and stuff. But My Own Worst Enemy and Chuck were their only credits before this show. So, yeah, I mean, interesting, but like I went into it, last week's episode was really good. These were good people in the crew there, so I was going into it pretty excited. And then I read the episode description and I was a little less excited. Because the episode description says, as a full moon approaches, Letha's parents discover her relationship with Peter. Despite a crisis of faith, Chasseur prepares to capture the killer.
Which also proves to not be true either.
Right. But I don't know if you guys remember last week's episode, because I only really do because of editing the podcast. But Roman was in a coma.
Yep.
And this episode description is lacking some Roman.
Everything about this episode was lacking Roman.
True. But it does start with Roman's comatose body, and Olivia is like brushing his hair and fixing his socks and singing to him in some weird language that I could not figure out what it was. And it was a little weird.
Yeah, and then poor Shelly's like just sitting outside the door looking depressed as ever.
Yeah. It was interesting.
And she also makes a statement because there are flowers that were brought to him.
Oh, yeah.
And those flowers are for funerals. This isn't a funeral. And she like tosses them to the side.
Yeah, she says a lot of weird stuff in that scene. Yeah. She says a lot of weird stuff in general in this episode.
She's a cryptic woman. Roman called her ass out and said, do you really, like everything you say, do you even understand what you're saying half the time?
Yeah. I do not.
No.
So then that is everything we have before the credits is Olivia's weird hovering. And then after the credits, we open on Letha and Peter.
And Jiggy with.
Yeah. And then post-coital, her first immediate comment is about Roman.
Just always Roman on the brain, even while you're
down
with your dog boyfriend. It just.
But then they kind of like remedy it by like having a cute-ish little scene where like if I didn't hate the fact that they're together, I would have really liked this scene. And she was like, tell me like what it is like being a gypsy. And he tells her this whole story about a fairy that his grandpa caught and everything. And I find it interesting, and this will come back into play later, but I find it interesting that he is so willing to just be like, yeah, fairies are real, and it's like, this is what they look like, and this is what they eat, and this is what they do, but like, God forbid anybody think a werewolf is a real thing.
True, but at this point, Letha already knows.
No, she doesn't.
Why did I sit there and think like she knew?
No, that's the thing. I had that thought for a second too, but she doesn't know. She thinks that he and like Roman are just like playing Hardy Boys. Like,
True. Very
She,
true.
she has no idea. She knows that everybody thinks he's a werewolf, but she thinks that it's not a real thing you can be. But like fairies are real. But in this story about his fairies, the fairy died. And he said, no one can live like that. And he's talking about someone living trapped in a glass jar on display. And I wrote a note, like a couple notes here, because I thought that was really important. And I was right. I have a lot of notes about being trapped in this episode. But I was curious who he's talking about. Like, does he feel like he's trapped, or is he thinking about Roman, like living this life that everybody's looking at him all the time? And then we go to another person who's trapped, and we flash to Miss Clementine Chasseur, who is solidly losing her mind.
Oh, for sure. She's spiraling. And in this episode, we're gonna, like, there's a lot of her battling a lot of her inner beliefs, and what she believes is what she wants to hear, but also knows that, like, she has like she's conflicted in the episode, and you think that she might have a come to Jesus moment, literally.
Well, no, but that's the problem, is she's trying to get away from Jesus.
Exactly, but no, a come to Jesus about getting away from Jesus moment.
Yeah.
Where you guys are wrong about this.
Yeah, but I think I wrote that I think I was right a couple episodes ago. We talked about how I think that killing that pregnant lady like messed her up more than she wanted to believe, and in her like spiraling and drinking and freaking out, she kept flashing back to like conversations with the pregnant lady, and I think that was that it did mess her up.
Yeah, and that was honestly a really good point that you had made that I didn't even think about, because I just look at Clementine through heartless, soulless eyes, because I hate her.
I honestly, after this episode, I don't think I hate her anymore. Like, I don't like her. I still don't like what she wants to do, but I have compassion for her.
Because I think she's torn, but I think that she's letting too many things cloud her judgment still, so I still dislike her.
Yeah, I think that we're also still missing a huge piece of who she is because of one thing that happened in this scene. Her phone rings, and on the phone screen it says Michael, and she rips the battery of her phone out, and she freaks out, and she says, "Psychic, spooky, weird twin shit." No, I have no idea who Michael is.
Michael was the person that the priest was talking to at the church in the second or first episode.
Oh, when he said I talked to Michael about her being drinking again. Okay, because I didn't know who it was, and I like went back to make sure that like it wasn't the bishop's name or anything. And literally in the previous episode, like plot summary, it literally calls the bishop Mr. Priestman. So I was like, okay, well, not him.
Mr. Priestman.
Yeah. So then this was actually a really long scene of just focusing on Clementine, because she's sitting in her hotel room and she's like flashing to like the conversations with Peter and the conversations with the girl that she killed and like all this stuff. And then we go into a deep cut flashback of her actual induction into the Order of the Dragon. And the priest is chanting in Latin, and translated the Latin chant that he is saying is, "How merciful is God, how pious, how holy, and how just." And sadly, I did not need to look that up. Hashtag Catholic school. And then they give she gives this whole speech to herself about like like her induction right into the order is this whole speech about Saint George. And now I don't know, because I have way more like religious education than you do. What do you know about Saint George?
Nothing. Nothing. I went to church school. I left when I was like 8, and then.
So Saint George is like the myth that the thing that he's supposedly famous for is for killing a dragon, and like a lot of like medieval folklore and like fairy tale stories are based on the story of Saint George and the dragon. There's a lot of speculation of how true it is, because Saint George's name didn't become associated with the story until like the 11th century and blah blah blah, and like there's all kinds of things, and the story originated in Turkey, but the Crusades were like against the Muslims, so like it's very complicated actual history. But basically Saint George killed the dragon, and they're in European history, especially in British history, they still like use it. Like there are images from World War I of recruitment posters to like get men to join the army in World War I, so like 1915, with pictures of St. George killing the dragon in a circle, just like she was talking about. That was like, great, like Britain needs you now. In the 1900s in like Barcelona, there was this like really gorgeous like pendant that was like huge church thing that was St. George and the dragon in a circle. So like the whole like they're going in deep on this like religious Catholic imagery.
Oh, definitely. Now that you described that to me, because and that also still ties in with the whole Ouroboros thing.
Yeah.
The whole like tail, the snake biting the tail, like everything has to do with that symbol being a shape. And the only thing that really scares me about us when we talk about it as in depth as we do, I'm like, did they mean, like, is this really going to hold as much to what we're discussing as we think that it's going to? Because there have been things that we have discussed that make complete sense, and then it doesn't happen, or it wasn't as important, and we would spend like 40 minutes talking about it. And that, but I do definitely think obviously the Ouroboros and Order of the Dragon are definitely two important things, but to what extent they are going into it concerns me more than anything.
The thing is, if this TV show was just a TV show, I would probably say I'm thinking way too much about it. But because it's based on a book, and I know the way like an author's mind works, I know this man did like 16 months of research about the Crusades just to write these details.
Yeah.
So.
And that is fair.
Probably just like so glad someone's appreciating it.
Yeah. They're like, oh, someone's listening and talking in depth about our show, which at times can be very transparently obvious, but then sometimes you have to sit there and, you know, dissect a little bit further.
Yeah.
And it's still an interesting notion. My only concern, like, I know that later seasons are still based off of books, but now if the writer of the books said, screw the series, I'm not helping out on it anymore, scares me.
It's funny because I've seen a lot of people on Twitter recently being like, man, why did they stop making that show? They should make more seasons. But I've also, everyone I know in real life is like,
no. Don't make more.
Yeah. But basically, after 35 minutes of religious dissection, we just come to the conclusion that she really doesn't think that Peter killed anyone.
Yeah.
She's questioning everything.
Mm-hmm. She's like, because like she makes a notion saying like, I know what you are, but I don't think it's you.
Well, that she says later, but at this point she's looking at pictures. She has all these like surveillance pictures of all the creepy like sitting outside taking pictures of people that she's been doing for the last 2 months, and she has pictures of Peter and Destiny inside Destiny's house, which was like super sketch. But she's like, what are you?
Mm-hmm.
She's like,
because I think that's when she was looking at Destiny, and she's like, "Who are you? But what are you?" Like, she clearly knows that Destiny is something too, just by looking at her freaking picture.
yeah.
And
So
when
she's
Peter.
yeah. Yeah, so basically this episode is called something about Peter, but really the whole episode's about Clementine. Let's be honest.
And it is.
But so the next scene is Christina. She's our favorite girl's back. She's in a psych ward.
As she should be.
Her hair is getting real gray. And she's having creepy ass dreams about Francis Pullman. And he's telling her that she's going to lose her soul.
I think she's already lost it because she's a heartless, soulless woman who thinks she might be right, but who thinks that, like, we're not living in fairy tales. And the fact that people in this town believed that there was a werewolf over a rabid animal baffles my mind. You're going to believe a 14-year-old girl.
Which we'll come back to that in a second. But so she's in this psych ward, and the twins come in to visit her, and they like brought a bunch of DVDs and some games, and they're like trying to like cheer her up. And honestly, I wrote like, oh wait, the twins are actually being decent human beings in this episode, because they're like genuinely just like, it was heartbreaking. They're like, their friend is like messed up, and they're like, and you think about it, these girls are 14 and their mom died when they were really little, and now their like best friend is like clearly not okay, and they're just like having a rough time of it.
And like they want to get her out.
Yeah.
Badly.
And they go to talk to their dad, and he's like, listen, Christina knows that you guys love her like a sister. That's the best thing you can do for her. And right now, Dr. Godfrey thinks that she needs to stay here, and I have to trust that he's right, because I don't know the answer, and I'm going to ask the people who do. And like my note literally just says, Tom, you the real MVP. Like he was just like so compassionate for the girls, but at the same time being like, we don't get to make this decision.
Yeah.
I loved it.
He definitely I like Tom as a character. I think he's a nice balance to show, like, for like Christina's situation. I don't like her.
No, I don't like her, but like psychological, like supernatural things aside, if your kid's friend was going through something like that, you would have, like, how would you handle your kids?
Yeah, like he did a good job.
He's the most human character on the show to me.
In all honesty, he definitely is. Because like we're all dealing with mythical beings anyway.
Yeah.
But he has the most sane head on his shoulders out of probably any character that we have seen in retrospect of real world. Because and it's so hard to pretend like Hemlock Grove is real world. Like if this is something taking place in our life.
Like,
because we react the way that they do in the show to half of the situations.
Trying to judge characters on what we think they should be doing, like as a person, versus like, I don't know what I would do if somebody was like dead serious, like, yo, that kid's a vampire. That kid's a werewolf.
And that's the thing that irritates me, which I think they could have probably built more of, like, you know, like, this is going to go on a little bit of a derail because I watched this last night after I watched the show. I was watching Hocus Pocus. It's like when all the kids in town like 100% believe the Sanderson sisters, because there is legend, because there is things, it makes it easier to believe.
Right.
As you're going to accuse some random kid who moved in out of town to a trailer park 2 weeks ago, that's a wolf. Okay, you know what? No facts, no validation, because werewolves exist. Yeah, kid, you're a werewolf. Like,
I mean, like, there's like being mean and racist to the new kid, and then there's telling the police the new kid is a werewolf.
Yeah. And the police believing it sometimes.
Right.
That's even worse.
But so after the scene with Tom and the twins, we head to Norman's office.
Yeah,
He's
where Norman is servicing Olivia.
his face is a little busy. Um, but honestly, that scene bothered me. Not because of the sexual content. I've gotten past that. They had the weirdest vibe.
Oh yeah.
It was so uncomfortable. Like she wasn't being all weird and clingy like she always is. She was just like, "Oh, I guess you have to go home." And he was like, "Yeah."
Here's my thing. I think Olivia's thing with Norman is because it's the fact that she can't have him is what makes her drawn to her, and getting him in his weak moments. But like, I feel like she knows that he's closer to leaving his wife. So, and like the chase isn't as fun for her anymore because, well, what's going to happen when he's fully devoted to her?
I don't know if it's that or if she is just so all consumed with Roman that she doesn't care. Like she's like, "Yeah, sure, that was great."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has more to do with it because of a scene later and something that she says later that we'll talk about. But then, so Norman leaves Olivia and he goes home, and Marie is like his wife. I don't know how many times we've said her name because she's not really important at all. She's like scrubbing the F out of the counter, and he's just like, "Yeah, like I think you got it."
Can I just say one thing? There is one ring stain on this gigantic empty counter. There is not a single other thing on this counter. Can you like make it look like they live there? Like prop design, make it look like people live there.
Yeah,
and like,
but if she's scrubbing the counter that hard, they could live there all they want, and there would be nothing on that counter.
True.
So she's freaking out, and he's like, "What's going on? What are we losing our minds about?" And she's like, she says that she went through Letha's phone, and
so gently says that Letha and Peter are sharing cookies.
Sharing cooties, doing the nasty. And Norman's like, "Why the F did you go through her phone?"
That's not your like business.
Yeah. And she's like, and this one I wrote, Marie's a bitch, but she's like not wrong. She goes, "Our daughter claims to be pregnant with an angel's baby, and now she's screwing the guy that half the town thinks is a werewolf. What do you mean I shouldn't be concerned?" To which Norman, in a moment of insane clarity, where I wrote, #thank you, Norman, says, him being considered a werewolf is character assassination by a traumatized 14-year-old girl, which is what we have been saying this entire time.
What, Roman? What, Norman?
Yeah.
I just... Norman had to come to Jesus moment. He's like, he finally realized that, like, hey, none of this makes any sense. Why is everyone?
This girl is a patient in my psych ward. She's 14, and she thinks she told somebody he was a werewolf, and now the whole town believes it. What insanity are we living in?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Okay, but like, can you please talk to your daughter?"
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean,
fair to have
but at the same time, I don't want my first awkward sex talk to be with my dad.
No. But honestly, the scene where the upcoming scene where Norman I'm having a stroke. The scene where Norman does go talk to Letha, which is right after Marie tells him to. It's honestly a very sweet moment because
it is.
And the actors do a really good job portraying that we're both uncomfortable talking about this. Like, let's pretend like let's not do it this way. Let's just have a conversation. Like he was like, don't let anyone make you think that like sex is bad, like, but you should be able to come and talk to us. And then this is the most ironic thing that Norman has ever said in his entire life.
He said, we're family, we don't have secrets.
And I'm like, wasn't your face just like 2 inches too low? More than 2 inches, more like 2 feet too low from where it should be with Olivia?
I'm mad. We were in such a good flow.
We really were.
What I was trying to say before the internet decided it hated us was, I don't know if you caught it, but in the moment between when he left the kitchen from talking to Marie and went into the living room to talk to Lisa, he changed the passcode on his phone. So, excuse me, Mr. I don't have secrets.
Yeah, but then, and it also shows that, like, well, if she's going to go through Letha's phone, what's going to stop her from going through mine? And, sir, your conversations with Olivia are nothing that a wife should be seeing.
I'm sure they don't text like that.
Well, that gives you the indication that they do, considering the fact that he had to change his passcode on it. Like, there has to be something that could not. They're not like being like dirty talking while he's at work. She just comes over and sleeps with him when that happens.
Can you imagine Olivia sexting?
I don't want to. She'd be cryptic just like she is when she's just speaking.
That's the thing. She's too
cryptic.
Pretentious.
Yeah.
She doesn't yeah, I don't know. But yeah. I thought their conversation, like he literally was like, is this as awkward for you as it is for me? And she was like, yes. Yes, it is. But it was fair.
What was that?
I was like, it was fair. Like, she was like, listen, like, I'm in love with him. And he was like, ouch, you're 17, you're not in love with anyone. Like, and she was like, I'm not. She was like, Peter's a blank slate. He's the kind of person that everybody around him writes what they want him to be on him. And if you don't see the real him, you don't get to decide.
Yeah.
How I feel about him. And I thought that was like super
sweet
and mature also, like to know that like he's not the sum of what everyone is saying he is.
Mm-hmm. And also the thing is that I think almost Norman approaching Letha as a friend in that predicament made it more comfortable.
Yeah.
For not coming in as like an authoritative father figure, like, oh, sex is bad. Don't. Like, don't. But like I feel like he actually did a good job of explaining it to her as where I feel like most parents should make it feel to a degree. Like, well, if they're
also old enough, like you have to remember they're not a religious family, so there's no like sense of like God doesn't want you to be doing this. He's a medical professional, so he's like, I'm not gonna lie to you about what I think and believe. So like he's coming at her very like straight arrow, like, I'm your dad, I worry about you, but that doesn't mean you're bad for doing these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. They keep showing these glimpses of like Norman and Marie and Letha having like this ability to be like your average family, but that's never gonna happen ever.
Yeah, their last name's Godfrey. That ain't happening. She's giving birth to the angel.
Whew, and thoughts about the last name being Godfrey coming up. But then we get a super cute scene, really short. We're back at the Godfrey mansion, and the doorbell rings, and Shelley opens it, and it's Jenny. And Jenny is like, and Shelley's like, he's upstairs, you want to go upstairs? And Jenny's like, no, I'm not. I mean, I'm praying for Roman. I'm worried about Roman, but like, I'm here for you. Like, has anybody checked on you yet?
That scene warmed my heart.
I wrote, my note just says, Jenny, you're such a doll.
Because there's the thing, and I do feel like Shelley honestly feels more isolated now than ever because one, Roman isn't there for her and it's just her and Olivia, and then when anyone comes over, they're there just for Roman now.
Right.
So like I feel like Shelley was like, and then she was like, do you want a hug?
Which reminds me of the other thing that I really liked that Letha said to her dad when she was talking about like the relationship with Peter. She's like, think about everything that people say about Shelley. If we listen to them, like it's the same thing.
And also, I want to make a note real quick. So in this scene, we get to see Shelley's back, Shelley's whole body. Now, initially, because I didn't check IMDb, shame on me, slap on the wrist. I thought they put Shelley on like platforms or something to make her look taller. But no, Shelley has a body double. She's had 2 body doubles. I'm pulling up the names because I'm terrible with names and I can't remember them. But for my American Horror Story fans, her first body double was the actress who played Amazon Eve in American Horror Story Freak Show, Erica Irvin. I think that's how you pronounce her name.
Yeah, I think she's like currently like the tallest woman alive or something like that.
Yes. And then, but in this episode, there's another body double for her, and Michael Andre, I believe is his name. I'm not gonna pronounce his name.
It's less about being correct and not being sure about how to actually pronounce that, but he is a stunt double who's very tall.
Yes.
He's 6'6".
Holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big man. Big man.
No, but that's really cool. Like the actress who does the facial like and character work for Shelley, instead of I'm not sure if they do like separate takes of like whenever there's like a far away scene versus a close-up scene, but it's nice that instead of trying to like do like isolating camera work where she's really standing like 6 feet away from everyone else in the scene for like height purposes or whatever, like I once watched a documentary on the making of Darby O'Gill and the Little People, which if you haven't watched that movie, you absolutely should. It's like a 1940s Disney live action movie about leprechauns, and like it is one of my favorite movies of all time, no shame. But for the filming of that movie, because it was like 100 years ago, they literally like separated, the actors were like basically almost a room apart so that the leprechauns were a different height. So like the leprechaun actors would be like in the back of the room and the regular people actors would be in the front of the room so that like they looked to different sizes. And I thought that's what they did at first for a lot of the Shelley scenes, but.
And I think, and they still, even for when Shelley is talking and like, and this falls all on camera work and framing, everything, honestly, with when people are talking to Shelley and you get the close-ups of her, they still make her look taller.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what.
Oh no, for sure. Like it's just Nicole Bowman, the actor who is Shelley's face, is not the one stomping down the hallway.
Yeah, and that's also why her face is always covered in those scenes. Ta-da.
Yeah, so then after that scene, we go to school. And I'd like you to talk about this scene because you have feelings about this scene. Our good friend Ashley comes up to Letha.
Yeah, okay, so yesterday when we were watching it, Em was editing last week's episode. I was under the impression she had already watched it. And this scene made me feel so uncomfortable. I really didn't, I get like okay. So everyone knows what happened to poor Ashley 2 episodes ago. Ashley runs up to Letha and she's like, I am so sorry about Roman. And she's talking to her and goes, I can't even remember the last time I spoke to him, but I think the last time I saw him, I called him a bitch.
She said the last time I talked, she's like, I don't remember when the last time I talked to him was, but I'm pretty sure I was a bitch to him.
I was pretty sure I was a bitch to him. And I'm sitting there going, ew, 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 ew. And then she's like, oh, make sure you give this to him. She makes him a card.
And it was beautiful.
And like, I'm like, she's over here sitting here feeling bad because he did the roofie eyes at her and made her forget that he ever.
No, but the worst part is Peter like asks Letha what's going on, and Letha goes, oh, well, I guess Ashley Valentine has a heart after all. Like, he picked the meanest, like, most hated girl in school to do that to, so that no one would have cared anyway, which is disgusting.
It makes makes it really hard for me to love Roman. That episode really, he's been in a coma for a bit. I feel like they needed to put him in a coma for a bit after that wallop of a episode.
Then, the next scene, our dear friend Clementine has gone to visit Destiny.
Ah, yes. And Destiny she shall receive.
Destiny is calling her the F out. She's like, most people are here because of like a death in the family, or they lost a job, or they're like something external is triggering them, but like you're here because of something internal. And Clementine's like, how do you know? And she's like, well, first of all, I could smell it on your breath the second you walked in here. And I was like, yikes.
Yeah. She said alcohol.
Yeah, and then also like, so Clementine's like spiraling, and she's like, I don't know, like, why God is like making me do this. And Jesse's like, when you say God, you mean
like, I mean God.
Yeah, and this is my favorite line. She said, we don't get many big G's in here unless they're part of my other services. Awkward. So then Destiny is like doing some palm reading stuff, and like the weird hand thing she did to Roman. And then I just wrote okay. Because somehow the cure to Clementine's problems turn into a big old lesbian love scene.
Well, here's the thing. We already know that Clementine is sexually attracted to women.
Yes. Oh, no. I wasn't uncomfortable with the lesbian sex. I was uncomfortable with how that was the solution.
Well, because I think when Destiny, like, read her hands, because of her religious belief, for her to be able to be who she wants to be, she can't be. And so it's her trying to say, like, you can't pretend that this isn't who you are anymore when this is something that you desire. So just like feed into your vices, you're already feeding into one of them by drinking alcohol. So I thought that was her way. And honestly, in the long run, it ended up helping her by the end of the episode with discovering things. Granted, part of it pissed me off, but it ended up helping her discover and understand things. And real quick, I'm gonna this is the stupidest, pettiest thing to get upset about. But Clementine's marine tattoo is on the wrong arm, right? On the wrong arm. And it's like one of those shitty little transfer ones. Like, I get it. Like, that's fine if you want to use one, sure.
Right. But like, you don't need to get a real U.S. Marine Corps tattoo if you were not in the Marine Corps.
But the thing that irritated me is that it was so patchy and so like it was like half-assed thrown there, but they made a focus of part of that scene. Like, this was like an important thing to look at. I'm like, if you're gonna make it seem like it needs to be important, make it seem like it's real.
Like if you're gonna close up for that long, at least fucking pay for airbrush.
Exactly. And I'm surprised they didn't do that anyway.
Well, I mean, they didn't even get it on the correct arm. You know, this show, we've talked about this before, but this show is like, here is some of the dopest werewolf transformations and super cool prosthetic faces, but when it comes to cuts and tattoos, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. And my only concern with that is because sometimes more simple special effects can be the hardest to pull off to look realistic. So like some cuts, like they'll just throw like extra blood on it to hide the rough edges or to hide, you know,
But like, they're getting placement wrong.
Oh,
like,
and that
isn't somebody's job on set to be
photograph it every day to see
Yeah.
when you apply.
And like, exactly, and like someone should have a notebook that says this character's tattoos are on their right arm, not their left. Did that person not come to work that day?
I don't know. Possibly.
I mean, like, my experience in like props and stuff like that and makeup and whatever is from the theater world, not the film world. So it's a little bit different because consistency isn't necessarily an issue and blah, blah, blah. But like, when I was assistant stage managing, which means I'm in control of I'm running the backstage, I had notebooks upon notebooks of every prop and where it was and who was allowed to touch it. And like,
like when I worked, when I helped my friend Hope with her movie, granted, like the shoots we did weren't like extensive, where it was like it would take 3 days to film one scene or something like that. That was a big gory scene. But like there were things that I would document and remembered, okay, like this goes here, this person looks like this. But most of it was because of the fact of just me making sure in case we had to go back and either reshoot something or add to it.
Like, yeah, we don't all want a Henry Cavill's mustache situation.
No. No.
So anyway, then the next scene is in the garage, the car garage, where Roman's car is, and Olivia is pissed that it's still not ready, despite the fact that it's like a 300-year-old car, and where the F are they supposed to get parts for that car?
And it's not like Roman can drive it because, coma, but...
Right. And then Marie comes in to have her truck checked out, and there's this super awkward conversation between Marie and Olivia that, like, nothing was said. The point of the conversation wasn't any information. It was just to show the tension between them. Mm-hmm. But I literally, my note says, is this the first time they've ever spoken to each other? It was so uncomfortable.
Yeah. And like Marie had made a note. She was like, no, first it was Olivia saying that like, oh, Letha's been up every day to see Roman. She's very lovely. And then she goes, Norman, she's like, I'm presuming, and then Marie says, I'm presuming Norman as well. And she goes, yes, great support as he's always been. And she's honestly doing, Olivia, I will give her credit, she's doing a good job at pretty much saying, like, without being weird, but Marie's just being extra weird. Olivia's like, the fuck?
But also, like, this is the wrong time to accuse someone, because, like, not saying there's anything justifiable about what Norman and Olivia are doing. Mm-hmm. But Norman's nephew, whether you have issues with the Godfrey family or not, it's still his nephew. It's still his brother's son, his brother's only son. His nephew is in a coma, and he's a psychologist or a psychiatrist who works with the brain. Please tell me why it's uncomfortable for him to be spending time there.
Exactly, but it's not his.
Yes, but that's I'm not talking about real world. I'm not talking about what's actually happening in the show. I'm talking about, if you suspect your husband is cheating on you, why are you choosing the one time that it's actually justifiable for him to be there every day to
have a question? Oh, yeah. No, but like, remember in the scene, but I don't know if Norman knows that Roman's his son.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if Norman knows. I don't know if Marie knows. I don't know if well, I think Olivia probably knows, but I don't know if anybody knows. That's not the issue I'm having here. I'm saying, like, if your kid was sick, I would be at your house every day.
Mm-hmm. Plain and simple.
Yeah, like, whether I was sleeping with your husband or not. Not that I would, but I'm saying, like, that's not the question here.
Yeah, like, it's a very justifiable reason for Norman to be at the house, where as it was where Roman was fine, and Olivia would be going, like, it's like 2:00 in the morning. Oh, I'm gonna call Norman and have him come over, but we're not gonna question that. We're gonna question it.
That's my thing, is this is not the correct time to start this fight.
Yeah.
You've had the last 17 years to start this fight.
Yeah. But now it's the time to be snarky and throw a little, oh, I presume Norman as well. Yeah, bitch. Sorry.
But then we forgot to mention earlier when Peter and Letha were talking in the hallway about Ashley, Letha also invited him to have dinner with her parents.
And oh, what an awful dinner it was.
I wrote the worst family dinner ever, and then I wrote big yikes. Because first of all, they sat in complete silence. And Letha
no, nothing. Just silence. Just chewing.
Letha tried to make conversation by talking about a dude running naked down the street with a leopard on his back. And then Norman was like, we were afraid you might be a vegetarian. Everybody thinks he's a werewolf. Why would he be a vegetarian?
I get it. I think Norman was trying to do the exact opposite, because everyone thought, like, he was trying to make a joke because everyone was assuming he's a werewolf. So he's like, I was afraid you were a vegetarian. Like I give props to Norman and Letha, because obviously the awkward tension at the table is Marie.
See, I am so grateful to not be an only child when I see things like that, because, like, I think about the first time that Brent ever had dinner with my family. But it wasn't weird because we were at B-Dubs and it was all of us.
Yeah. Like, any guy I brought home for dinner, which, Julian was out of the house by then, so it was just me, my mom, and my dad. And it was...
Was it leopard on your back awkward?
Oh, worse. Because, well, the one had a social skill of a goldfish and didn't know how to act in front of parents, so...
That's true. Never mind. I was going to make a comment about someone, but I'm not.
Oh, I love that. That's a comment.
When we're done and I tell you who I was thinking about, you're going to die. But anyway, yeah, so the dinner then gets even more awkward when Peter asks Norman how he and Marie met, and they start to tell the story, and it becomes very obvious that Marie has never in the entire 17 years they've been together been happy to be married to Norman.
Yeah. And then, like, Letha tries to, like, be cute about, like, oh, like, how'd you win her back? And he's like, oh, I was never good enough for Mr. Bubla's daughter. I can't remember what her dad's
Mr.
name
Newton. Was. Mr. Newton.
Newton's daughter. And then Marie goes,
and
yeah.
She goes, Godfrey always gets what they want. And then she's literally crying when she says that, and then she storms away. And I was like,
this is the time and place for this.
That's when I wrote, big yikes. Oof.
And then Norman's like, do you want to, he's like, how about we have at it? And he's like, it's not a trick question.
He said, it's not a trick question. Drink with me. My life's a fucking joke.
Yep.
And then they cheers to, of all things, Roman.
What a weird scene. That's like they can't even have like a normal awkward like family, like boyfriend meeting the family dinners. It has to be the Godfreys. Like that would suck.
Whew. The next scene is Clementine leaving Destiny's, and Destiny's still trying to like tell her like stop using your brain, like use your gut, like just you don't have to know, you already know kind of thing. And I wrote my note for that was that I think that Destiny, as much as she's trying to like move the blame off of Peter, I think she genuinely wants to help Clementine figure her shit out.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
And then we get a scene where Linda comes to deliver the goods to Olivia, and then they have the most weird bonding ever, talking about being single moms and taking care of their sons. And this is the scene that I said made me think that she doesn't really care about Norman at this moment right now, because she said it's nice to have them around, like men around, but it's so stupid because they're completely useless.
Olivia woke.
Yeah. But then you see that in this scene, like there's some weird bonding and they like kind of like come to terms with each other. But there's also a very clear dichotomy of how they think of their kids, because Linda's telling the story about how Peter almost died when he was born, and she's like, it was up to him to take a breath. And then Olivia goes, but it's not up to Roman. He doesn't get to decide to die. That's my choice. And I was like, ooh, that's not
normal.
Yeah.
See, here's my thing. I actually quite enjoyed this scene because it was really nice, because I like when people who like can see differently can still come together and be decent human beings to one another. I think that like, because when me and you were talking about this for like the first episode, we did not see it going in this direction whatsoever. And I truly believe that what's Peter's mom's name again? I always draw a blank on it.
Linda,
thank you. When Linda came over, and like the fact that she didn't charge why am I forgetting everyone's name? Olivia. The fact that she didn't charge Olivia for the vial and like all that stuff, it kind of shows like she's still human. Like Olivia might be like a diva queen, entitled and everything like that, but I think this scene showed a sense of humanity in the both of them, because Olivia was having a normal conversation without being cryptic, like extremely cryptic, except the fact where she said that if Roman dies, it's up to her. Yeah. That's just weird. But she had like a normal conversation about life and growing up, like, and raising a son on her own.
Yeah.
It was the most human I think I've seen her.
Yeah, that's true. I felt that way about a bunch of this episode. Like I have a note later that says like, when did Olivia become a mom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then we go to school, and a bunch of the dudes are being little a-holes, and they're talking all kinds of shit to Peter about it's about to be the full moon. What are you going to do now that your girlfriend's in a coma? You're going to go ask some D while he's knocked out.
Mary Kate,
Yeah.
you're gonna put this. Did we miss I think we missed the psychiatric scene where Norman's walking around the asylum.
No, we didn't. That comes later.
I thought it was earlier.
No, I just double checked where it was in my notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're basically like just saying horrible stuff. Like they literally like they said something about, are you gonna go home and suck Sleeping Beauty's dick?
And then after that lovely diss, they beat the ever-loving shit out of him.
And the one thing I have to say is the only people who were trying to stop them, not very well, were the twins. The twins were yelling, "What are you doing? Stop! Stop! Don't hit him!" But not very effectively.
Also, can I just say that when Letha ran up, everyone ran, like the guys all like dispersed.
I think that these guys like are dumb, but they're not dumb enough to punch a pregnant Godfrey.
That's fair.
Yeah. But then when Peter gets beat up at school, somehow the parent who picks him up and takes care of him is not his mother or Letha's parents. It's Olivia.
This was honestly a really sweet scene.
Yeah, it was.
Like she hands a handkerchief over to Peter and is like, and he's like looking at her, is like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you being nice? And she goes, oh, don't be worried, it's not one of my good ones.
Good ones. And then she tries to get Letha to go home, but Letha's not having it. So then they all go to Peter's house. So now we have Linda, Letha, Olivia, and Peter all
in the little RV.
Yeah, hanging out. And
now, the thing that Olivia says in this scene,
yes.
I was like, excuse me, woman?
Yeah. So Linda gets some like ice and some medicine and stuff, and then she sends Letha and Peter into his bedroom, which I was like, that's cool. My mom wouldn't do that. But she has this conversation with Olivia, and Olivia is like, why doesn't Peter come stay at our house for a little bit? And Linda's like, well, I don't know, like this is his home, like I want him to be safe. And she's like, things are gonna get worse.
We don't need any more broken collarbones.
Yeah. And so then he does, and I wrote, oh cool, we're gonna have a full moon party. That's a bad idea.
But my favorite scene is this scene. I love it. I love the way. Okay.
Now, this is your favorite scene. But this is also my favorite scene for a very different reason that I could probably spend another 3 hours talking about just this moment.
It's because of the book that was mentioned in the game.
Yes.
I know.
They're playing a Trivial Pursuit game, and Letha starts to ask a question, and she says, what book starts with the title? And she literally only said the word last. And I go, Night I Dreamt of Manderley Again. It's Rebecca! Because that is my favorite book. And apparently it's Shelley's favorite book, too, which I just...
And then Peter was like, holy shit, how did you know that? And she just goes, I read.
But if you don't know what Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier is, it's a wonderful, wonderful book. It's set in like Gothic literature, and it's about this woman, and it's all told in the perspective of she's no longer at this house, and she's remembering living in this house, that Manderley's the house. But basically it's a ghost story, and it's about this woman who gets married to this man, and she's trapped in this house with the ghost of his ex-wife, his dead wife. And it's amazing. It's such a good book. You would love it. But so there's this this parallel that is now showing up with this book being talked about, because it's the theme of being trapped and being trapped in a place, but also being trapped in an emotion and a feeling. And then you go back to the fairy in the glass jar and Clementine's discomfort and Peter in this town and Letha, and like I just was like nerding out. I was like, oh my god.
See, now that when I was making that weird face when you were discussing it, that's why. 'Cause I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But see, why it's my favorite scene is because it's like family game night. Literally, we got Shelly, we got Letha, we got Peter sitting down playing Trivial Pursuit, Shelly being a whiz, and then Letha's being a hungry pregnant woman who's like, hey, my beat up and bruised boyfriend who can't breathe without coughing because your chest hurts so bad, go warm me up something in the microwave. And he does. And he gets up, and then he like looks at Shelly and he's like, no cheating, I know a schemer when I see it. And then like he gets really close to her face, he goes like, and he walks away, and I was like, stop, that was so cute. That was so cute.
Yeah.
But he walked into the weirdest predicament ever with Olivia just standing in the kitchen sipping her wine and just staring at him, not saying, oh, hello. You're staring.
No, the first thing she said was, you should try some Vaseline and cayenne pepper. And he was like, I'm sorry, what? She's like, for your face. But she's like, she basically tells him that it was her idea to move him into the house because things are going to get hairy.
Mm-hmm.
She says it exactly like that. And this is when I was like, and she like is worried about his face, and she's like worried about him getting like beat up more at school and about him transforming and all this stuff. And I'm like, who are you? Who are you, and what did you do with Olivia Godfrey?
Yeah.
Then, oh no, we have one more scene before the other one. So then it's the next morning. Peter was waking up and he looks at the moon and how close it is to full, and he kind of freaks out, and he goes to Chasseur, who has like ripped apart her sorry, my dad just texted me that he's canceling our Netflix account. He was like, I don't even use it anymore. And I was like, I do every day. I watched the first season of Grey's Anatomy every single night for the last 3 weeks.
That's a problem. What's the problem, man?
Shut the fuck up. Says the girl who's watched the entire Office 4 million times.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so Peter goes to Chasseur's.
You have to
what?
You have to hit record.
Oh, I've been recording this whole time.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
The little record thingy where it says it's recording isn't in my corner anymore.
Oh, it's still in mine, and I'm the one recording, so.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I saw it go away and it's not recorded.
No, I never stopped it.
Okay.
Yeah. So Peter goes to Chasseur's, and she's clearly like kind of done with it. Like she's taken all of her pictures down. She's like cleaned up the whole hotel room. She's like ready to go. And he's like, if you're really here to make sure that no more girls die, like I need you to watch Letha because I can't.
Mm-hmm.
He's like really, really, really afraid that she is going to be the one who dies next, which this is where the title obviously comes in. But tell your friends it's not the time. No, But then she's like, I promise no more girls are gonna die, like with her gun, like ready. And I'm like, yo, that's a big promise to make, Clem.
Yep.
Big promises over here. And then yeah, and that's the end of that scene. Then we go to the
Mental hospital.
yes, to the mental hospital. I was trying to think of a fancy word for it because we're not really in it. We're like walking around the garden, which kind of looks like the garden from Roman's dream.
Yeah. Which honestly makes sense because that garden in Roman's scene is where Norman was, so it would kind of make sense that was the spot.
Yeah. No, Norman wasn't in the garden. Clementine was in the garden. Norman was in the backyard of the mansion. Yeah. But so they're walking around this garden and Christina's just like saying whatever weird stuff Christina's saying.
The scene irritated me for multiple reasons because when Christina was talking to Norman about everything, Norman was like trying to be like lighthearted and said like, oh, like, by the way, and this is honestly, it was a really awkward segue because it was like 30 seconds of silence, and then out of nowhere Norman goes, oh, by the way, he told me to tell you that you guys are all cool, meaning the guy that she scratched.
Right. Apparently Tyler told Letha to tell Norman to tell Christina that he's not mad.
Yes. And so like they're having like small talk, and then she starts talking about the rain and how she used to be terrified of thunderstorms, and how like in the mental hospital, like she feels like she's safe there, like nothing can get her there, and this, that, and the other.
I literally wrote, that's not going to turn out well for you.
No. Then she starts talking about Francis. And she's like, I knew him, but like I didn't know him. She's like, he had a life and a family. I only just would see him around because like he would stand by the park that my grandparents' house was at.
Yeah.
And she's like, so I heard, and she heard things about him. And then the conversation turns on its head where she's like, you know, he saw him do it, right? And then Norman's like, what? So here's the thing. Like she's sitting there saying like, no, like Francis saw him eat those girls and like he'd killed them. And I'm sitting here thinking like, you need to check your surroundings. You're in a mental hospital. You think that your like, yeah, your word holds validation to apparently the cops and everyone else in town, but I think Norman's like, okay, crazy chick.
Well, I think Norman is a little bit like weirded out because there's no way that Christina could know that Francis like described what he saw in detail to Norman. But he also like not only does he not really believe it's Peter, he also really needs to not believe it's Peter since that's his daughter's boyfriend.
And that's what raises a red flag for me on Christina yet again. Shady chick. How the hell did she know what Francis, like in detail, what Francis had seen when she never spoke to Francis? Maybe she was there too.
Yeah, I don't like her.
Shady, gray-haired bitch. Sorry. But like shady, gray-haired bitch. I don't like her. I don't know why I'm sitting like this. My legs hurt.
Then we get another scene of Clementine, and she is
talking to the man upstairs.
She's talking to the big guy. She's yelling at him. She's drinking. She's like, "I'm gonna do this last thing for you, but I know after that we're through. We're done. I'm not doing this." She's like, "Because to you it doesn't matter if they're good or bad people. It just matters what they are. I don't believe for a second that Peter did this, but I am sure of what he is, and apparently that's all that matters."
And that's the thing that ticks me off is instead of her killing the one that is actually doing it, she's gonna not do what she was sent there for in the first place.
But that's the thing is, based on what the bishop said last week, what she was sent there for was to kill Peter. Like, that's the thing that she's angry about, is that it's not about who killed those girls. It's about the fact that they know for a fact Peter's a werewolf. And that's all that matters. And that's why she's angry. But she is like, kind of, if she doesn't do this, it's never going to go away.
Yeah, and like that's fair. It's just it's frustrating in a standpoint where it's like, if you're gonna do this, like, why bother doing this last thing if you're done with it anyway? Like, do the right thing anyway.
Because she's a fairy in a jar.
Damn, Mary Kate.
Telling you, this whole episode is way more connected
To Clementine than it is.
but just in general, the whole trap thing. It's everyone. Everyone in the episode is a fairy in a jar.
And it's kind of crazy that, you know, Clementine, like, I can definitely see her character development, but I honestly hope that it comes to the point where she just, like, bites the bullet and ends up doing the right thing in the end.
Yeah.
Because, like, if they're setting her up to, yeah, I'm gonna do this one last thing, then we're through. But I feel like it's up for her to have a change of heart. In a way.
Spoiler alert, but not really a spoiler alert. But the chances of Peter dying, she's not gonna kill him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the show wouldn't keep going.
Yeah.
And then we have one last
which kind of upset me. I wanted to bippity bop her in the forehead.
It was upsetting. It was very upsetting, but it was, again, another thing about being trapped. So Letha is sitting with Roman in his coma, and Peter comes back from seeing Chasseur, and she's like, where were you? And he's like, it doesn't matter. I need you to make sure you're home before sundown, that you're have someone with you in the room with you for the whole night. Like, he's kind of freaking out because he really genuinely, like, he realizes that he, like, can't live without her. And the thing that was so upsetting is because he knows that. So, like, he's saying all this stuff, he's freaking out, he's yelling at her. And then she's like, you're just a human, this isn't a game. Like, she basically, like, calls him out on him and Roman and being stupid, and, like, she's like, look at you, like, you got your face beat in, Roman's in a coma, like, stop playing games, this isn't funny anymore. And he freaks out, and he's like, I'm not playing games, like, do what I say or else you'll never see me again.
And, like, he said, and then Letha's like, one of the things that she said when Roman had first got back, when Peter had just gotten back, was, if you were going to leave, you could have at least told me. Like, if you were running away, you could have at least told me. She's like, so whenever you're going to run away? And then she asked, she's like, well, when you do this, am I ever going to see you again? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah. She's like, what, am I supposed to just, like, wait to visit you in jail? And he's like, I don't know what's going to happen, but your choices are to do what I say, or you'll never see me again anyway. Because in his mind, she's going to die if he doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's really, really aggressive fighting, and they're screaming at each other, and he breaks a lamp and just, like, freaks out on her. And I think the thing that's most heartbreaking is that he knows in that moment that it's better if she hates him, because then she won't do anything.
Yeah.
Because she'll be so upset and so heartbroken, and that like, and hating him, that she will go home.
Mm-hmm. And another thing is that because of the fact of what Roman has said, like, says to, now I keep calling him Peter, says to Letha right before she ends up leaving, because her dad pulls up and she goes home, is he calls her, he's like, you're a whining, ununderstanding, stupid little bitch. And, like, then, like, it's, like, quiet, and then the car horn honks, and she goes, I have to go, my dad's here. And they don't say anything else to one another. Yeah. And so, like, for, like, that just sit on Peter's mind of knowing that, and Letha's, that this could be the last thing they ever say to one another, because maybe possibly one of them could die, is absolutely heartbreaking.
I think for Peter, that's what's happening, is this could be the last time because she could die or something could happen to him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he says that he's going to kill the wolf, like the Vargulf. Of course, he's going to do it in wolf form, and Letha thinks he's just going to be running around like a Boy Scout in the woods. But so he knows, but I don't think she realizes. Like, she thinks he's being dumb and he's going to get himself hurt, but I think she doesn't know how heavy it is for him. Yeah. Like, how he's not saying this because he believes any of it. He's saying it because he doesn't have anything else to say.
Yeah. And then after Letha leaves, Peter has a little bit of a cry sesh for a few seconds. And then roll credit scene with some really uncomfy music. I didn't like the music choice at the end of the...
I didn't either.
Like, it wasn't a banger.
Well, this episode. Did you really go out on a banger after that end scene?
No.
So.
No, I can't.
So that was the episode. I feel like we have spent like 18 years talking about it.
Yeah. All in all, in retrospect, not terrible. I just think that the title of this show should have been more driven to Clementine. Like, maybe it being called Fairy would have been a really good title episode.
Right. No, or like, just because I didn't hate the episode. I actually didn't mind how much about Clementine it was, just because we actually like learned something. But yeah.
I don't think the title, like, I don't have an issue with that. I had the issue with them making the title episode about Peter when, Peter's dealing with things, but I feel like the main focus was on Clementine's like inner battle that she's going through at the moment.
Yeah. I also just really hate that they keep giving us these weird cliffhangers. Like, the way, like, the fact that Roman was literally not in this episode at all was infuriating.
I'm like, they could have brought up, like, they could have gone into something, but with everything else that they were juggling in this episode, I feel like it was kind of hard to incorporate Roman. And that's kind of happy.
Okay. I get that. I'm not saying that, like I said, I didn't hate this episode. I think it's more just about placement and like cliffhangers. Like, don't give us this whole journey episode with Roman and then have the next episode not address it at all. This episode, it flowed well. The pieces went well together. The theme was so on point, and I loved how every character was showing how trapped they are. Marie was trapped in her marriage. Olivia is trapped with her kid being sick. Roman's still trapped in the coma. Peter's trapped in this wolf thing. Letha's trapped in not understanding anybody around her. Chrissy's trapped in the mental institute. Like, literally, it was amazingly well done. It's probably, in terms of writing and like connection and follow through, my favorite episode of the show so far.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like how it connects to the episode before it.
Yes, I feel like it makes Roman's journey episode that we watched last week a little bit dissociated from the rest of the story.
Yeah, it feels super disjointed.
Yeah, and like that's fine, because we have to understand what Roman's going through to a point, but there was so much weight heavy on it, and you have to remember that, granted, yes, for a Netflix series, all these episodes came out at once. So, yeah, you're not going to forget it instantly, but it can make it harder to, like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Roman went on, like, this weird journey with his, like, pretty sister as his angel guide.
Most people don't spend 4.5 hours talking about the episode after they watch it. So if we're struggling with the connection, the average viewer is confused.
Yes.
And, like, not to say that we're smarter or anything by any means, but we just spent 4 hours talking about it.
Yeah.
So.
And that's when you the whole that's where the issue honestly lies with the series, is that you watch it and you're like, okay, cool, on to the next one, where you're not going to be able to really sit and process what you just watched to understand it to go into the next one. And it can be frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. So who do you want to punch this week?
Who do I want to punch this week? I just want I want to punch Christine. Surprisingly, not Chasseur. I want to punch Christine. Here's my reasoning why. Christine, it's a battle between Christine and Marie, honestly, but Christine is.
It's Christina. You just said Christine 7 times, and that's not even her name.
I don't even care. That's how much I don't like her. Christina, okay? It's between Christina and Marie. I don't like it because because everyone in the town has validated her on her psychotic beliefs, that I feel like she's so detached from her making zero goddamn sense. Like, she is in a mental institute and sitting here preaching to her psychiatrist that she knows that Peter Romancic ate those girls and tore them apart, and like, I'm like, you're in a mental institute. Take a look around your surroundings. You really think your psychiatrist is going to believe you on that one? I said, it took Norman forever to believe Francis. He had to actually do some research for it. Yeah. And like, you're not going to off the jump believe your psychotic patient who has PTSD. Like, and like, not saying that like people in mental institutions are psychotic, like, no, like, but her accusations
especially like, not to say that everybody who has a mental break is psychotic. Like, obviously there are lots of different types of mental health disorders. Mm-hmm. But she kissed a dead body and then ripped her date's face off. Like,
yeah, like she obviously is going through some stuff. So I don't know why everyone else thinks that her word that Peter Romancic is valid.
I would not trust her. No.
And then and I also really don't understand how she thought, that goes back to that episode where I think I said it in that episode, where how she thought that dead body was fake, because who the hell would have done that?
Yeah.
But then Marie, I just feel like Marie's just not doing the right things at the right timing, especially when it came with Olivia and Norman. The way that she's like has been acting, like, I get that she's stressed and she's not happy in her marriage, but if she isn't happy, she needs to pull the trigger on that and leave it and not fight for something that's already broken. And she needs to stand up for herself, but understand that there's a time and a place. Like, she's had 17 years to call Norman and Olivia out on their bullshit, and you're going to do it now while like we said earlier, Norman has a valid reason to be over at Olivia's. And she's just so absent-mindedly like taking control of Letha's life, which
I don't think it's absent-minded at all. I don't see my person that I would like to punch this week is in fact Marie. Wrote her down. I've been frustrated with her since the beginning of her character, and like, no, I sympathize with her because she's trapped in a shit marriage and her husband has been cheating on her for almost the entire marriage. Absolutely, like, that's horrible. But she doesn't treat Letha like she has a mind. Like, she acts like Letha is like a doll that is being moved around and as like a piece. Like, she just talks about her in a way where she doesn't have any agency over herself, and she like calls Norman out at the most inconvenient, unnecessary times, like at the dinner table when Letha's boyfriend is there for the first time, when she's like calling out Olivia when her son's in a coma, when Francis killed himself and Norman needed to go to the psych ward. She like aggressively accused him of Olivia being the one to call him in the middle of the night, and she's just like passive aggressive about everything.
Yes, and like, I don't like it.
Her motivation is justified. Her actions are infuriating.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And I think that's the frustrating thing about Marie.
Yeah.
And feel bad for the girl because she's in a not good marriage, but she's just as unhappy as Norman is, but she's staying for what, like, sit there and think, like, what reason does Marie have to stay? She really doesn't. Yes, Letha's pregnant, but Letha is...
even before they found out she was pregnant, she was starting her senior year of high school. She's not a kid.
Exactly. Like, neither of you are happy. Someone needs to pull the trigger on this thing because you're only hurting yourselves at this point, and you're annoying Letha. I don't think it's hurting Letha at this point. I think it's pissing.
I think Letha's a little bit dumb, to be honest.
I think the dinner scene.
She has any idea. Like when her mom was being like real passive aggressive at the dinner table, she literally just goes, "Oh, you never told me that part." Like, she's a little bit stupid.
I don't think she was doing it because she didn't know. I think she was doing it because she could sense it and didn't want it to go as far as it did. And that's why she was acting that way, because her boyfriend's at the table and she's saying, "Don't do this to me right now."
See, if that was an isolated incident, I think I would agree. But I just feel like just the way she talks to everybody, like, she's a little bit stupid, and it bothers me because this whole world of deviousness is going around her, and Roman's crazy, and Peter's a werewolf, and her parents' marriage is a sham, and her aunt is boning her dad, and like her other cousin is literally like a 7-foot tall, deformed, like non-human, and she's just like, "The world is made of sunshine, and I wrote my personal essay for college, but I'm going to have to defer because I'm going to have a baby."
Yeah.
That was brought to me by an angel. Like, she's a little bit stupid.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is that with the whole thing with Letha, the thing that irritated me was that when Letha was tending, because there's a little scene that we didn't actually talk about in the episode, that Letha was icing down Peter's thing and like Peter's face, and then he turns to her and does the same thing she did to him after they post coitus in the beginning of the episode, where he's like, "Tell me a story about gypsies," and she full on like beats him, and she's like, and then she acts like she didn't mean to hit him that hard, but like she wound up, she knew that was gonna hit
hard. She was like, "You're such a jerk."
I hate it.
But also, like, remember the episode when they were first talking on the bus, and she's like, "You can trust me, you can talk to me even though I'm a woman," and I was like, what does that have to do with anything? I want to like her, but I don't.
She has her moments of just, why? But enough with the moments of why do these characters exist. Let's talk about our saving graces this week. And honestly, Mary Kate, I think I have 2 saving graces. I'm very indecisive, if you guys haven't been able to tell, 10 episodes in. I always have like 2 of each because I'm terrible at this.
My saving grace is Sheriff Tom Sworn being the only human, reasonable character in the entire show.
See, I was not expecting you to pick Tom Sworn.
I told you were not going to guess my saving grace at all.
See, my saving grace, I believe, was Jenny.
Oh, because Jenny. That's a good one.
Jenny did a very selfless act, and knowing, can see where when I first got the vibe off Jenny, when like she was like kind of when Shelley was writing her letter to Norman, and Jenny was giving her like the cold shoulder until Roman came around. But I think like Jenny really does care about Shelley, and this scene showed it very, very well. And she's like, "Can I hug you?" And she gave Shelley a hug, and like I know like Shelley hasn't been given a hug in like weeks at this point, because Roman's the only one that ever freaking gives her any attention. And then also Linda, I really like how Linda just like, because to see her interaction with the Godfreys from the beginning of the season to now.
True. If 7 episodes Olivia had suggested Peter move in, she would have socked Olivia on the face.
Exactly. And Linda's like, it was like kind of like breaking the olive branch type of thing, where she's like, there's a greater thing going on, whatever's going on between us, forget about it. Our sons are, friends, and there's clearly
they need help. Yeah.
And that's what I think for both of those, even Olivia in a sense too, when it comes to Linda, for her offering Roman to stay with them to help him. I think it's showing, real good character development there. I hope it keeps going. My fear is with Olivia, I don't think it will. I think it's going to be like a 1 or 2 episode thing. I think she has something planned in my gut. But it was nice to see, 2 enemies coming together to defeat a greater evil of what that they don't even know yet.
Yeah. All right. I know we talked a lot about like themes and feelings and stuff, but do you have any actual predictions for the next episode?
Next episode, not really, except I'm still sticking with my theory that Christina's not an all right person, especially after Courtney's comment on our post from the other episode. Yeah. That really got me thinking that, like, yeah, she has some weird like voodoo vibes on her. I don't know what she is. I don't like it. I don't get good vibes from Christina. But I feel like I said before when I was talking about Linda and Olivia, I feel like Olivia is doing the right things I think she wants to, because I think she realizes how lonely she is because Roman's not there. But I feel like when Roman wakes up from his coma, things are going to change.
Yeah. My prediction for the next episode my prediction doesn't go any farther than the next episode, but my prediction for the next episode is that someone is going to die, and it's not going to be the Vargulf.
Oh, for sure. With them saying that the full moon's happening.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is episode 9 right now, so 10, 11, 12, 13. We still have 4 more episodes. It wouldn't make any sense for the Vargulf to die with 3 episodes left after that, but it's the full moon coming, so somebody's going to die.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you guys for hanging out with us for this journey. I can't even believe how long this episode was today.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be this long.
Yeah, but if you have any cool observations that we missed, like Courtney did, you can email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at deathandaliens. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MK_superstar. MK is spelled EMKAY.
And you can follow me on Instagram at monica.lynn_ and Twitter at MonieLynn_ MONIELYNN_ because someone took did I say
you just totally didn't even say your Twitter handle right. It's Monie_Lynn_ .
That's right. Okay. Sorry. I have a fried brain this morning. So my Twitter is _Lynn_ spelled MONIE_LYNN_ because someone decided to steal my identity on Twitter.
Because she's that important.
I am. Believe it.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.